I just turned 30. And
Okay.
I was newly dating this great guy. I was a spa director up in Park City. I was like making more money than I'd ever made. Life was just perfect. Actually, the morning of my accident, I had said to my boyfriend, we'd gone for a hike down in Bryan Head. I said, my life's perfect. There's nothing I'd change right now.
You didn't knock on wood?
Knock on wood, man. Don't say those words, whatever you say. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But 4 hours later, I'd gone off the trail, hit a ditch, flipped, and snapped my back in half.
Hi, and welcome to the Flat Bill Investors Podcast. I'm Josh Sigloski.
And I'm Zach Spencer. Josh, welcome. I'm happy to have our guest here today. I'm going to do a quick introduction. She is known as the Vertical Blonde, a very fitting name for somebody who is inspirational to so many. We've got Sarah Foley today. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks. On your bio, we've got that you're a dynamic speaker, a coach. You've helped a lot of people. I've watched your journey over the last few years as you've kind of like, I feel like you've grown into your own skin a little bit.
1,000%. Yeah, I feel that.
That's good. And so I've really enjoyed seeing you just on lots of different stages. And now, you know, your biggest thing is you've got the Icon. Tell us a little bit about that as we start.
So I've got my Icon Academy, and we just came off of the Icon live event that happened last weekend. So that was amazing. I feel like I'm still buzzing a little bit from the energy of that. And then we do it once a year. And so we open up the doors to the Icon Academy. So anyone who's wanting to strengthen their voice, show up with more confidence, more charisma, want to dominate those stages as well, that's where I come in. So
love that.
Let the audience know a little bit more about what the Icon Academy is.
Yeah. So it's all, it was really crafted around public speaking. And what we realized was people were using it to dominate physical stages, right? Stages in front of thousands or stages of life. I had one girl, go on to become Miss Utah. I had one girl that really showed up and was able to own her voice and show up for her baby that was struggling in the NICU and had to really come in and have some hard conversations with doctors. And so, but our voice, when we are so, I call it seated, like when we get seated into our voice, and I say our voice, if people are just listening, it's down in our gut. If we can get out of our heads and down into our gut, then we can speak from this place that is really authentic. It's really honest. It's bold. It's charismatic, it's magnetic, but too often people are up in their head. And I think I've kind of cracked the code on public speaking.
There you go. That's awesome. From getting to know you a little bit, it sounds like you have been on camera for a while. Like part of your story has been like, I'm going to be in front of people and tell us a little bit about your experience in the desert.
Yeah,
high desert.
Out in Palm Springs. Loved my Palm Springs years.
But you grew up here in Utah, right?
I did. I grew up here in Utah. I was born and raised. Couldn't wait to get out. I think like most, as soon as we turn 18, we're like, peace out, warmer weather and bigger things. And so the goal was always to get out to LA. Wanted to become an actress in Hollywood and do the whole thing. And chain of events ended up landing me in Palm Springs. And I landed a very new production. It was called Palm Springs Edge TV. Ended up becoming their lead host. And I ended up carrying that show. And I was just the face of it. It was pretty awesome, actually. Went out at like age 22 and landed this gig and went on to do it for quite some time. But what I loved about it was that I learned everything in front of the camera, behind the camera, the power of the story and a well-told and well-crafted story and what that can do for people to inspire them, to ignite them, to teach them, to coach them. My dad always said that if you can entertain them, you can teach them anything. So I've just really leaned into it, entertaining. Yeah,
that's good advice. I'll be writing that one down.
So
when did you kind of discover, like with not just with the Icon Speaker Academy, but when did you kind of discover you had that ability to kind of help people think kind of outside the box and kind of get out of their comfort zones? With public speaking, because it's scary. I mean, I mean, you and I have spoke together. And I seriously, last time we spoke together, I think there was probably 30, 40 people there at that lunch.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, like, I still get like jitters.
I was just going to say,
before I get up, I'm like, okay, what am I going to say? And then I even spoke in Charleston a week or two ago. And I remember getting down like, oh my gosh, I forgot 3 or 4 things. Like, and I had other people, it's like, you did so well.
Yeah.
I know, but I wanted to
criticize
this, and you criticize yourself.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of discover that you can help people kind of think outside the box and get over those hurdles? And I'm sure they still have them in a way, because like I speak all the time, but I probably should
still get
have some sort of,
Well, I'll start by saying this because I don't want to forget. And this one's just for you. Well, it's for everybody, but it's to piggyback on what you just said, that we will, for every talk we give, we're always going to give 3 versions. The one we prep, the one we give, the one we wish we would have given. And
That's
so
very true.
being able to trust, this is what's really helped me, is that after I speak, as long as I'm staying so fully in my body, right? And I'm really speaking from that place and I'm staying connected to the audience, that I can just lay it all out on the stage and then trust what was given. And that it may be totally different than I planned.
Yeah.
But I will always get those people afterwards, right? Of, it felt like you were speaking right to me and it's what I needed to hear. And so you can just trust that maybe it wasn't what you planned, but it was what was meant to be told. And it actually found me. I mean, it's in my soul. Like when I speak, I feel at home, even with a microphone.
Yeah.
I just feel at home. But people would often come up afterwards and just kind of grab my arm and say, I feel like I'm supposed to tell my story and I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And I'd always just say, I know exactly where to start. Like, I got you. I know the name of the game. I know where to start. And so people kept coming up to me. And it was actually about 2021. At this point, I'm older now. I'm 42. So
Yeah.
I've gone through a lot of life,
young
right?
still.
Right. But I feel like I've gone through a lot of life. And at that point, 2021, I was actually doing physical fitness training for female wheelchair users. And so I was training them on how to feel good again after getting injured and get into their body and gain confidence. And we kind of talked about this before we started rolling of, you get people feeling good and they're always going to ask what else they can do. But that nudge kept coming up in my gut over and over that I was in the wrong business. I mean, it was just getting really, really loud. And finally, I literally just 1 week on one call with my clients, I said, this business is closed. I'm done. I'm not doing physical training. Just on the spot. And I felt so worried that they weren't going to be okay without me.
Yeah.
One of my clients who I'd had forever, she says, you're giving yourself way too much credit. We're going to be fine. Like, go. And they could just kind of tell that I was itching to do something different. And it was all around the power of storytelling.
Yeah.
So,
and the power of love. Like we had a gentleman on last week that he talked about like his superpower was love. And it's funny because I've known him for 3 or 4 years.
You can tell too. He was like oozing.
Yeah.
Aww.
And the
Love
thing is
that.
and to what you told them is you showed love. I guarantee you showed love to them when you're teaching them, training them in physical therapy or physical fitness in a wheelchair. Because I think about this quick story on, I had these employees that we had to do a riff or a layoff and I did not want to do it. We talked about it as owners for like a week. And business wise, we had to do it. Right. And it's funny because so many of them they just loved us. And they even made like a Facebook private page dedicated to this former business that they're part of because like they all got to know each other. Yeah.
Like making a group out of it.
And it's because of the love. And I think that's very important. And you don't mind me asking 2 things. One is, where did the name Vertical Blonde come from? And then for the audience, they don't know you are in a wheelchair.
So Vertical Blonde came through my own healing. So I was injured back in 2012. I flipped over on a 4-wheeler and it was instant paralysis. So for T4 down, it's right around my rib cage. I don't feel, I don't move. I can't do normal functions the way typical people can. And for the first 4 years, there was a lot of denial, sadness, pain. I mean, I just felt like
How old were you again when you had the
turned
injury?
30. And I was newly dating this great guy. I was a spa director up in Park City. I was like making more money than I'd ever made. Life was just perfect. Actually, the morning of my accident, I had said to my boyfriend, we'd gone for a hike down in Bryan Head. I said, my life's perfect. There's nothing I'd change right now.
You did knock on wood?
Knock on wood, man. Don't say those words, whatever you say. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But 4 hours later, I'd gone off the trail, hit a ditch, flipped, and snapped my back in half. And those first 4 years, there was so much denial. And I just kept seeing the visual of the person who's overweight in their wheelchair, unhappy, a million Walmart bags on the back of their chair, no style, unsuccessful. I call them all these uns of life, unattractive, undesirable, unfriendly, all these things. I just said, this is my life. There's no way that's what I'm destined for. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even look at a full length mirror. I felt so disconnected from my body, from who I was, my life, everything. And life took me and my little family to Maui. And so I went from Palm Springs back to Utah, then to Maui. So if everyone's paying attention to the timeline,
There you go.
it is a lot.
Fact checkers are
Fact check.
they're
And for the record,
they are going crazy.
0 shopping bags on your wheelchair right now.
Zero.
I don't see
Only
a single one.
Rebecca Minkoff purse on the back. No, I'm just
There you
kidding. So it took us to Maui, and I just thought, I'm ready to heal. I'm ready to lay down all of this pain. I'm ready to heal. And I opened myself up to healers, and I started finding them in new ways. Therapies, dance classes, an artist who would paint me walking on the beach, friends, support groups. I found all these different healing aspects. And through all of this, friends and family back home kept asking, what's the latest? Are you walking again? Why are you healing? All the things. And I decided to start a blog. And at that point, I simply knew my words had power. I thought my words are making me feel disabled because I'm saying all those things to myself over and over. I got to come up with new words.
Back to like the timeline. So from the time of the accident, I'm sure you're probably in the hospital till you're now kind of out of the hospital to the time that now you're in Maui. Is that like 2 years or a year?
That was 4 years.
4 years.
From injured to Maui was 4 years. I was in the hospital for about 5 months.
Wow.
So, I went back to work within 7.
So you're starting to see when you're in Maui, you're starting to see your abilities, what we talked about before the show, your superpower, your abilities, how you can make. And even at that point, because I know I've done this in my life, is kind of feeling what your purpose is.
Well, and in those initial times in Maui, those were all for me. And I talk a lot about that even with my clients. Now, there's a Hawaiian word called kuleana. And our kuleana is our God-given responsibility to fulfill our greatest potential. Okay? But here's the caveat. We must do it for ourselves first so it can trickle over to others and then the world. Yeah. So those first years in Maui were my healing all for me. I was not speaking yet. I was not sharing it yet. Those were all for me. That was just for me to get to a place of feeling good. And I think too often we rush to go take care of other people. We rush to save the world.
Yeah.
You know why that's important? It reminds me of, and someone's used this analogy to me, is if you're in an airplane and they teach you, take care of yourself first. And
always.
You're no
you can help other people.
Yeah, you're no good if
you help other people, you're going to pass. You're going to pass out.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. Totally.
And so it's like the same analogy. It's like, take care of yourself first, because you can then help a lot more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do have a question, because I know, if I was just listening to this post facto and I'm not in a good spot. I'm like, okay, Sarah was able to do this. I'm not in a great spot. What's like a first step I would take?
I'll get right to that. Because this is the step right here. So while I was in Maui going through all this, the friends and family in Utah are asking the updates, right?
Yeah.
So I just started.
Are you walking?
Are you walking?
You're like, no.
I'm like, well, in a new way, maybe. Yeah. But I decided to start a blog, and I just knew that my words were really important. So I spent some time to really think about, okay, what do I want to call this blog? And I thought of this word vertical. And I thought, well, I want to stand again. I want to walk again, right? So I want to be vertical in my body. And I just thought it had this really sexy ring to it. I liked it. Yeah. I came up with Vertical Blonde as this little catchy name for myself, name for the blog. But this is what happened. This is where the magic happens, is that every time I said it, I would sit taller. I started to notice a different kind of energy in me. And then I started to ask myself, okay, well, what would Vertical Blonde do today? How would Vertical Blonde take care of herself?
Yeah.
How is Vertical Blonde going to travel through this experience? What is Vertical Blonde going to do with her day today? What is she going to eat? I started to ask. And so it became this kind of true north of that is what I want to get in alignment with. So when people are stuck, this is the first place we go. And this first place I go with every single client is we come up with what I call your iconic identity.
Yeah. So
this is so your
funny.
Name.
As you're saying that, Josh always asks, what is your superpower? Yeah. And as you're saying that, I'm like, you need to have a superhero name. Like give yourself that superhero, like persona or icon that you can. So what do you call that?
So it's our iconic identity.
Iconic identity.
So I just got my tagline trademarked. I'm pretty proud of it.
Oh, that's
I can't to icon. So that I can't, even going from I can't to I can, it's still in what we're doing, right? But when it's icon, it's an identity shift. So
That's
it's
cool.
shifting literally who you are in order to get to those new places. So if I'm in a dark place, I need to ask myself, who am I at my fullest potential? That's my iconic identity. And I like it more than this alter ego kind of thing, because alter ego almost makes it feel like I'm putting on a fake mask, right? I'm putting on the happy face. I'm pretending. But this is like who you are at your core.
Yeah.
When you strip away the pain, when you are able to lay that
to
down.
differentiate icon, what'd you call it? Icon
Well, your
Yeah.
iconic.
Oh,
your
iconic identity.
to alter ego. For me, too, in the audience, like what would you say the difference between Vertical Blonde and Sarah is? Or is it the same, but how is it different?
So vertical blonde is me at my fullest potential.
Okay.
Sarah is the version I'm practicing being literally every single day, right? But when I get in touch with who I am at my fullest potential, going back to our Kuliana, it's this version of myself that is who I'm meant to be. It's that full alignment, right? When I'm able to kind of let go of the old habits or the old ways of thinking or the beliefs that are keeping me stuck where I'm at. And so over time, what happens is that you have this like true north. You've got this who you're trying to become, right?
Well-
Your iconic identity. But over time, you get into alignment with that. And
Yeah.
that's just who you are.
Well, I feel like the really cool thing that I'm taking from this right now is that you want to make that icon proud.
Yeah.
So am I doing a decision today that's going to make my future self or my truest self proud?
Totally.
And I think that would shift how you live your day. Like if you go,
oh, yeah.
is this something that make that person proud? And it's just future me.
Yeah.
I love that. I think
It's
that's
like what
so
you
great.
talked about with your Icon Academy is I think this is probably the most important to even talk about and understand before you're on a stage talking and public speaking.
This is the core
Oh,
of it.
for sure.
100%.
I think the amount of authenticity and the passion you could project knowing this about yourself, or I could say knowing this about myself, would definitely come off so much more authentic. The energy would be so much more in line versus somebody who gets up and talks and you go, okay, he's saying all the right words, but it doesn't seem right.
Oh, he doesn't even believe what he's saying.
Yeah.
Right?
And you
oh,
see
yeah.
those people
no,
all the
you
time.
can already see her energy just
Yeah.
the last 15 minutes. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you see, there is a different shift, right? And it's all energy. It's only things that you can feel. You can feel the difference from the person that's just reciting, right? And I always say like their voice is up in their throat and they're up in their head. But the person that's like dropped down into their iconic identity, their truest potential, and they're speaking from that place. And they're doing it. This is what I like to really get into their heads as well, and everybody's, is that they're practicing it in private so that it comes out authentically in public.
Yeah.
I'm making those choices when it's just me by myself at home. What am I doing today? How am I thinking, right? What is Vertical Blonde doing, treating her body, all these things. And I'm practicing that so that the person in the mirror, I'm making that person so proud that when I'm on a stage, I got nothing to prove to my audience. It is just me showing up in full alignment, who I'm meant to be, message I'm supposed to share from a place of knowing, from a place of lived results, right? I'm only sharing my own story and the things that I feel like can help other people. But too often, I think people, they get up in their head and they just recite.
Yeah, that's like human nature. Human nature is
is.
to be there and be kind of dictated from the exterior in versus the interior out. So
Well, it's like what you talked about. You got to take care of yourself first. But I'm not saying there's a particular order with this, but you also want to have the right people around you, because I just watched this thing and I'll probably repost it, but it's this, I want to say he's like a dad and he has this daughter that's probably like 10. And he says, I want you to get up on this chair.
Oh,
And-
I just saw this.
Yeah. And he pulls her down.
Yeah, it's a
and
teacher,
then,
I think.
And then she gets up and he goes, okay, pull me back up. And he goes, it's easier for people to pull you down than it is someone to pull you up.
Yeah.
You know, and that hit me because I think for a long time I was just trying to be accepted. And I was around the wrong people because I wasn't getting the best advice. A lot of times I was getting pulled down, you know, and not really thinking of it because there was good moments too. But then I always say my shift was probably about 6-7 years ago when I realized it was actually through a conversation with my wife and oldest son when he was probably like 13 or 14, that I was like, oh man, for years I've been around a different type of group of people. Now I'm around these people and I just feel so accepted. And then they're always trying to pull me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and I think it goes true to like when you're around the people that you don't have to dim yourself whatsoever.
I know.
Yeah.
They are just in fact, they're saying shine brighter, go bigger, dream bigger,
Yeah,
like
I
go
love that.
bigger. That's when you know you're around the right people. And I am very proud that that's the community we have
That's what I
really
was saying. You
built.
probably built a really good community.
It is tighter than family.
That's so cool.
It is so beautiful, the connections and the way that they are just encouraging one another to shine so bright. And they say it all the time that, you know, on one hand, it's where they're their most truest self, and it's also their brightest.
Well, I just had this conversation this week with my daughter. She's 13, so she's in junior high in 7th grade, and we had no idea. I don't know how old your kids.
He's 10.
Okay,
I just
so you
have
got one boy. Okay, so 10-year-old. I've got a 10-year-old girl and then an 8-year-old boy. And one thing, Josh has got some kids that are already gone through or going through this, but I had no idea how brutal junior high girls could be
Yeah.
until now. Our daughter's in 7th grade, and it's like, I mean, I'm like, holy cow!
Yeah.
Some of these people are mean.
Yeah.
And so we had this discussion about like another candle's light doesn't blow out yours. It just makes it brighter. And we kind of went through that, but I had that in the truck with her this week on driving her to school. I was like, honey, you just got to know, like, you've got to let your light shine. Like, and no matter what anybody else is doing, like, you can both have your candles lit. Like, it just makes the room brighter, that kind of conversation. And so to hear you say that, I'm like, if anybody has daughters, sons, 13-year-olds listening, listen to these words. Cause that, like, I wish when I was 12 or 13, somebody would have like sat me down. Looking back, I go, man, my own confidence as a middle schooler was not great.
Yeah.
And had I had a great mentor or a friend or somebody that like just tried to drill it, and maybe they did, maybe I didn't listen, but you know, I think if people could hear these words, this is great to hear from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get to trust that whatever path our kids are on, it's really meant for us. We talked a little bit about trust before we started rolling even tonight of, you know, trusting that what is happening is meant to happen. And I have to remind myself as a mom all the time on this. I mean, it is so hard, but you know, I look back at some of the hardest things that I went through as a kid, and gosh, do I really appreciate it now as adult being on the other side. And we don't have that appreciation without going through the hard, and we don't have the strength without going through the hard. The hard is so useful. And so they're going to make it, they're going to come through it. And we got to trust that whatever's happening with them is really meant to it at the same time.
I think at your core, you embody that really well, because like I said, as I've watched you over the last handful of years go from kind of smaller stages or smaller groups to now where you're doing really, you know, large things or on a larger scale. I love that you didn't say, hey, paralyzed now, so I guess I'm going to throw some Walmart bags on my chair and get all everything and this and that. You said, hey, I'm going to take the bull by the horns and really dictate what my future looks like.
Right.
And I love that. I think that's so commendable.
Thank you. Yeah. That's the core of it. We just, you know, wrapped the Icon Live on Friday, and at the core of everything that was taught, it was ownership. And no one can do this for you.
True.
My wise therapist once said, only we can heal ourselves, but we cannot do it alone. And it has to begin with us and the power of ownership. And that was the best decision I ever made, moving out to Maui and saying, I'm ready. I'm ready to heal. I will follow the nudges. I will follow the next right step. And in doing that, that's why I get to trust now.
Wow, that's awesome. I feel inspired. I'm so happy to have had you on today. I'm glad you made it. I know we had some exterior forces working against us getting together today a little bit, but
we appreciate it that much more.
I feel like we have another 30 minutes. So
I know. I'm like, keep it rolling.
So we'll have to maybe do a round 2 at some point and have you back on and talk about some things. But we'll go ahead and post your links and stuff in the video if people want to find you. I'm sure people are going to want to reach out and
find the community, all that stuff. Yeah,
I appreciate that. My favorite DM is getting the name you call your iconic identity. So reach out and DM that name.
I've been thinking already. I'm like, how much how much chat GPT do I get to help me?
No, this is all in your belly. You already have all the answers.
There you go. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. Vertical Blonde as you go by, but appreciate you coming and taking the time to be with us today and to really share these nuggets of wisdom.
Thank you.
Appreciate it a lot.
Yeah,
sincerely appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate
well,
you guys.
Until next week, invest in your future
and invest in yourself.
This is the Flat Bill Investors Podcast signing off.